And welcome back to another episode of Key Factors Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Jones, and we are powered by ReviewMyMortgage.com, which is the largest index of mortgage education, and it's actually changing a little bit of its concept to be in the hands of every loan officer across the nation. So be on the lookout for that. But on this episode, we have the privilege of speaking with a veteran appraiser that, in my opinion, has done quite a bit. Not only been an appraiser himself, but built a company, sold it, and is now still in the industry, teaching, coaching, mentoring, and all that jazz. So without further ado, I'll introduce Robert Oglesby. Robert, how you doing?
Hey, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome day.
And my second guest is going to be a mentor of mine that I don't know if he's ever been on a podcast, but we're about to find out. Mr. Chad Melin.
Hey, thanks, Mark. Yes, I've been on a podcast, and I started old school on the real radio shows back in the day.
I'm excited to hear more about this stuff. So as we jump into this, we had an awesome presentation, so thank you for that, Robert, earlier today. Plenty of knowledge for the realtors to take home. But I want to start kind of with your background. How did you get into appraising? How long you've been in appraising? Just take us there for a moment.
Yeah, no, interesting because that's obviously a big topic right now. Mm-hmm. I got in through a relative in Michigan.
Okay.
So my wife's side of the family, the smarter side, is out of Michigan. And brother-in-law, or her uncle actually did appraisals, and that's kind of where it all started.
Okay.
I saw him up there strapping houses, and just like a consumer, you think you're paying that appraiser just to be there for 30 minutes. I'm like, man, that's very interesting. So yeah, I've got some family in Virginia and Michigan that kind of are in that background, and that's where it all started.
Okay, very good. Now, is it just the residential side of things, or you do commercial? You do it all?
I do only residential.
Okay, very good.
I've got some connections with commercial, and that is a very interesting side of this business because it just opens the floodgates. So,
I can only imagine.
Yeah,
now, I guess first question, since I mentioned the concept of commercial versus residential, what is the reason why a residential appraiser would not then also do commercial appraiser?
Well, if they're busy as residential, it's comfortness. Mm-hmm. They feel like they've got the process mapped out. They got strength in that. So anytime you want to learn something new, you've got to take time to do it.
Sure.
So getting into that commercial space, really the first step is education, right? And any kind of competency gain. And then second is finding a mentor that's going to guide you the right way. And it's almost a new process for you. So it could take some time.
Sure. I can imagine that. And for me, I mean, I'll relate it to, let's say somebody picks up the phone, calls us and say, hey, I want to do a reverse mortgage. Chances are we do offer that, but me personally have never done one of those deals. So I'm not going to take it and botch this thing. I'm going to give it to the expert that knows what they're doing, because I want the customer to have a good experience and the best, highest quality product they can. So the next piece that I want to talk about is you getting into appraising. What did that look like? I mean, you've been in the business for quite some time, and I can imagine it's a little bit different than it is now, or maybe it's not.
Right.
What is that like?
Well, I'd say as today, it's getting better. The material stakeholders in the business really want to strive for appraisal diversity, want to get new blood in. And, I think you go back to the savings and loan days where you were selected as an appraiser, meaning that if you're a teller at the savings and loan, they kind of grabbed you and said, hey, we're going to train you. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that model worked better or not than it does today, because I wasn't there at that time. But what I can tell you now is me getting in, and what most appraisers or people that want to be appraisers have to do is find a mentor.
Right.
And that's very difficult. The great news is there's some things coming out that are already out that are very topical right now across the industry. PARIA, which is being adopted by the states right now, where an appraiser will be in a simulation environment, in a live environment, training online, if you will. But when I say that, I want you to think broader with that, meaning like we're live together just in a digital format. And I think there's a lot of upside to that. And I think that if we can help get more people get to a basic license level, then it allows them to start ramping up their career to gain further competency. The hardest barrier for the industry is getting to that license level, because you've got to take qualifying ed, which is the easy part.
Sure.
The second part is finding somebody that will mentor you for potentially 2 years. And it all varies on schedule. It varies around their practice. And here's the hole with that. The hole is you're only going to learn what they know.
Sure.
You're not getting that, like what you talked about there, trying to learn reverse, where we can go talk to multiple appraisers. Now, some are lucky. They work in a shop where they've got different levels, potentially commercial, res. It may some that work in different sides of this business and you learn more, but most of us learned under one person and we only got what they know, which sometimes was great, but sometimes it creates bad habits.
Yeah, that makes sense. And there's a myth that I've heard many times, and I don't know if it's a myth or if it's fact, but you have to apprentice for 5 years in order to become an appraiser or something along those lines. And that has a lot to do with why we're still dealing with appraisers that we've dealt with many years ago.
Yeah. Well, the minimum is going to be like 15 months. Okay. That's to get to your basic license level. To go 5 years, that means there's a disruption in who you're being mentored by or your own schedule.
Okay.
And, I've trained about 8 people, and everyone that I've went through an interview process with, I let them know that, look, I don't know where you're at in your life, but if you really want this done the right way, you've got to shut down everything else.
Yeah. No,
and you've got to be dedicated, save up enough money. And that's worked. But the problem is, guess what? They only gain knowledge from what I know.
Yeah.
Right. So I think some of the new things that are really being pushed from Fannie, the Appraisal Institute, and appraisers seeing that there's a lot more available education outlets and this PREA outlet, I think it's going to really be a game changer once it gets mapped out the right way.
Yeah, if you break it down, Mark, what he's saying is you got to have someone who's a really good mentor. You got to get a license. You got to work on someone who's really good for about 2 years. You can't have it can't be part-time. Sounds kind of like what we tell people.
Absolutely.
Right?
As a loan officer or
if you're going to be
realtor,
part-time, you still got to pass your test first.
Yep.
Then you got to dedicate 2 years to learn everything, and you got to be all in. All the people that do that on the part-time basis,
Yeah.
it's a rare bird that
Your learning
it's a
curve
rare
is
bird that
much
learns
longer.
to fly.
Now, question with that, while you are, let's say, apprenticing, are you able to be paid the same as an appraiser, or is it less comp? Or is it, how does that work? You don't have to go into detail how an appraiser's paid.
Right.
I'll do that later. But at the end of the day, what is the disadvantage for someone to jump into this industry?
Well, there's risk, right? Anything we want to learn new, there's risk. And I think, one thing to tip off, we never know everything in our industry, right? And I'm sure you guys feel the same way.
Yeah.
Just when you think you've done loans for 20
I'm a
years.
student of the
appraised,
game.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's constant learning. And the second you don't believe that is when you run into problems. But compensation wise will vary who the appraiser works for, or the trainee, if you will, or the person entering the business. I wasn't compensated. Most appraisers are commission-based, no different than you guys. It's a fee assignment, right?
Right.
And likely over time, as that trainee starts to develop and really allows for that person to mold into that appraiser's process and help them save time, that's when they get compensated.
Absolutely.
And it becomes a split fee system. Some probably pay a wage. There's different methods out there. And there's some bigger shops that are, I think, bringing on a lot more trainees right now, doing a great job. And they may have different compensation models, but I would encourage anybody to know coming in at the beginning, you're not really going to make any money. That's not what it's about.
It's a sacrifice for the long term if you are truly dedicated to becoming a real appraiser.
Absolutely.
So it kind of prompts me to my next question, which has a lot to do with the transition from the way we used to do things, not necessarily how we're going to be doing them moving forward, but prior to that, how appraisals were done from a mortgage lender to an appraiser versus the new way prior to TRID, prior to the crash, things of that nature, where I wasn't in the industry. I got in 2012, all those regulations were already in place. We had to have third-party disinterested, no communication, all that jazz. But this question is more so for you, Chad, because you were originating at that time and crushing it. What was the process? Were you able to have access to an appraiser? Could you pick up the phone and call your buddy and say, hey, what the heck, dude?
Yeah, we had the ability to pick appraisers who we wanted to. They would go out and market to loan officers, bigger companies. And you pick somebody that really came down to having good communication, good quality, that when there was an issue in underwriting, it could get fixed in a timely fashion.
Sure.
I met Robert way back then in the day, and there was other appraisers, and it started, the air violation, correct me if I'm wrong, Robert, that's always been around. You can't influence the value. That would get looked at by your state or federal regulators. It's always been, should have been.
And we can be real here.
There was a lot of it because there wasn't this disconnection where a loan officer or a company would make sure, or builders, it was out there where their values would just come in. A real estate agent would influence. There was a lot of influence of value, people would say. So there was a lot of people that were upset when they went to a new process where you had to go through a third party in order to order appraisal. And there was things that the appraisers didn't like about it. But at the end of the day, I think it's best for the consumer to be able to make sure that the value of their house is what they're buying.
Absolutely.
I mean, let's face it, if you're buying a diamond ring,
you want to know what it's worth.
You want to get an appraisal, right? Not by the jeweler's best friend.
Absolutely. You can get a good look at a T-bone steak.
Yeah.
Right.
There's that. But at the end of the day, when it changed, it was a process. But to me, the underlying thing that I always looked at is having really good, timely communication. Because in our industry, something's going to come up. You never know when it's going to come up, and how to educate people about it and how to communicate properly. Because the last thing is the appraisal, even when it's getting looked at in underwriting. The real estate agent and the customers is your appraisal back? Did it make it through underwriting?
You're on the money.
And you don't want to leave people hanging.
I think what I was leaning towards is more so, I still to this day will get calls, and I can tell right away that this realtor has not done a deal in quite some time, that they get the appraisal back and there's an issue of some sort, and they're like, well, I'm just going to call the appraiser, or, hey, just call the appraiser. Well, guys, once we have the appraisal back, yes, we have the appraiser's contact information, but there's a protocol that we have to follow so that it doesn't infringe on that gray area that's supposed to be black and white here at this point.
In order to eliminate that, the best rule of thumb that I can tell people, if you're a borrower or selling your house, you're a listing agent selling the house. If your listing agent isn't willing to meet the appraiser at the property to explain the property to this person who's there, think about it.
Yeah.
Hey, they're going to go to this property for the first time. Go to one of your friends' house this weekend. Go there for the first time and look around and write down the value and everything that they have, and come really close or come higher than what they think it should be worth. So the real estate agents, a lot of properties have some unique things.
Sure.
Make sure you're there to explain them, because then when you're there explaining it, you're usually going to get his number.
Yeah, that's true.
So then you can follow up with them if you need to, or maybe in the future you need to order a private appraisal.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So
and that's okay, Robert, for them to do. How often do you see listing agents meet the appraiser at the property?
Well, looking at today, we always learn something from a class, right? It's easy to be the teacher, but if you really sit back and look at that group today, Mark, what do we hear a lot of? Different questions.
Tons of
not
different
understanding
questions.
the process.
Correct.
And should they be perfect with the process? No, it'd be like me trying to understand what you guys do. And I would imagine, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, because you know your craft better than I do, is the appraisal the most manual process in your wheelhouse to close a loan now? Like for an underwriter to review the collateral, obviously there's some digital review products going on that we talked about today. But is that really the holdup for you knowing where that loan's going now, the most critical piece?
Not necessarily.
On a self-employed, on a W-2 borrower, it's probably...
That would be the highest. Yeah.
That would be the highest. On a self-employed borrower, it's the income verification validation of tax returns. The more companies and other things they have or assets, gets a little wonky, where there can be some discretionary view of a tax return. But yeah,
in addition to explaining to a borrower why we need certain documentation, I mean, that seems to be one of the biggest holdups in our process.
It's the top three on just about every loan. VA, it's a little bit different, because VA has some different things around the appraisals than FHA and conventional. And jumbo products, sometimes they require two. So yeah, it's top three.
I mean, you mentioned something that I was going to wait to talk about, but since you did mention it, it's a good transition quickly.
Did he give the answer yet about if it's good for the real estate agent to meet?
Oh, yeah. No, look, I think it's great. I think the challenge, the expectation of what's supposed to happen from that meeting is always a little over the top. So the agent expects to be this smiley appraiser coming out, just warm and fuzzy. Let's have hugs. And look, I can't speak for every appraiser. Appraisers go through a lot of training. They probably go through more training than any other real estate professional that we commonly deal with. And they're the most scrutinized.
I would agree.
So the house, and don't throw darts at me, appraisers, the house for a majority of assignments on the residential side of things is sometimes the easiest part. The most difficult part and complex part of the process is analyzing data that we're going to create conclusions on. So the house visit, when we meet this agent, it's all critical movements, right? Like if we're only there 30 minutes, oh, Robert wasn't there long enough.
Right.
If we're only there 20 minutes or 45 minutes, or we didn't seem friendly and fuzzy and they disagreed with the value, it's all related to that.
Yeah.
So I think hopefully we encourage today, think about the end product, think about when you meet there, give the right data, but understand the appraiser is going to do their own research.
Right. And I'll compare it to appraiser versus an inspector, which a lot of times those get misconstrued. An inspector is paid to point out those items. So if you show up for an inspection, be prepared to have your pen and write stuff down. But an appraiser does all of their work at the office. Once they've done, taken their measurements, taken their pictures, viewed the property. I mean, they can't be standing inside of a property and know what comps are around them. So you even arguing the points before they become points is almost moot. So
100%. Yeah. So it's important, but it's not the most critical piece. But your agents sometimes feel that.
Right.
So, and I think what you do, when I saw today and you coaching them and what I know you do, it's just educating them the right way so they have the right expectation of that visit.
Yeah. So now can I get into that?
Yeah, you can get into that one.
So today it was mentioned, and I want to rehash this, is the difference between a conventional appraisal and an FHA appraisal. We don't have to go down the road of VA because I know there's some nuances to that, but they're pretty much in line with FHA. So let's compare the two in regards to, first, value. Okay. The number one thing that we get from listing agents that are, in my opinion, just uneducated on the situation and the process and what actually it entails is we're not going to accept a FHA appraisal because it could come back low.
Correct.
What is your take on that?
Well, correct is the wrong word. So it's correct. There is no difference. So let's talk through that. First step for an appraiser is going to identify the problem, right? We got to lay out the problem, build a scope of work. The difference between FHA and conventional is how we're reporting characteristics about the property. FHA's got a little stronger layer, but in terms of value, if I'm doing an FHA and a conventional appraisal on the same property today, the definition of market value is the same. The value should be the same. Why would they be different? That realtor or agent has a history of somehow labeling FHA appraisals coming in below contract price.
Right.
And they just feel because they think that FHA is more strict on the property and how they look at things, that the appraiser is more conservative. And that's false.
See, one of the things that I would say is there's been plenty of time through my career where I've worked, or just people I know in the industry, they start out the deal FHA, something comes up and they're like, oh, we have to switch it to conventional. They call the appraiser and like, or conventional to FHA. So you got to get a case number, got to make it FHA. Some people think that they just use, retype it up real quick. There's a process.
Yep.
But the value doesn't
change. Correct.
But let me ask, do you have to have any other comps in there around FHA comps? Or are they all conventional comps?
They should be the same comps.
Okay.
So the scope of work related to the sales comparison approach to value is going to be relatively the same. It's all the effective date of the appraisal. Like I was explaining, if Mark ordered a conventional appraisal today and I did that appraisal, and then he says, well, I need an FHA in 2 weeks. Now that's a new assignment. So I have to treat that as a new assignment, a new effective date. If the data changes, my comps could change. If there's new activity in the market,
new closings.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep. Whatever the case may be, that could affect the value, but the reason the value could shift would be different opinions from two different appraisers.
Yeah, I think, Mark, we're really what I've always seen, it's the VA really scares some real estate agents, where VA appraisals will come in maybe not as consistent as an FHA and conventional, because FHA and conventional, they're on pretty much the same form, and explain why VAs could be slightly different.
I would honestly go as far as to say that most of my VA appraisals have come back higher than any other FHA conventional, especially during the pandemic when we had a lot of rolling in of closing costs, raising the sales price to allow for concessions. And that was something that I was shouting at the top of every mountain, because it's like, guys, you guys aren't accepting VA contracts because of something that you believe that's inaccurate.
Yeah, I see it more around the VA than anything else, where that fear is.
Now,
there should be no difference.
I know.
There should be.
There's
You're
The
exactly
definition
right.
of market value is the same on the VA. They're doing it all in the same form.
Yeah.
Same certifications, limited conditions. The VA, FHA, conventional have different expectations of reporting around the property, but it's not much different.
Is it harder to be a VA appraiser than to get on their list than conventional or FHA?
Well, in the appraiser's world, in the residential space, that's the golden list. It's all about the veterans, Chad.
Hey, you and I.
That's right.
there.
That's right. It's all about the veterans.
Thank you for your service, gentlemen.
And I'm taking that from the chief appraiser's signature log, okay? And he's accurate. It's not about the veterans. It's all about the veterans. So
I love it.
Nothing wrong with that.
you got to apply to be on panel. I think if you're a full fee appraiser, that's the golden list you want to be on.
Yeah.
And I can't speak for the VA, but I know they've got a hardworking chief appraiser. They've got a lot of hardworking people there. And I think any process can improve, and they're under pressure to modernize just as the rest of the industry is.
Yeah.
So they're a little bit stricter to get on their list.
I don't know if strict is the right word, but they have what I would say is they announce when they need new appraisers, if you will. Like they may not need anybody else new in San Antonio if they're meeting their requirements from turn times and expectations.
So go ahead.
They got older appraisers just like the rest. So I would imagine there's going to be windows of
If
opportunity.
I want to start to be an appraiser, I'm going to be a conventional FHA appraiser first before the VA.
Most likely.
Okay.
Yeah, because one of the requirements, you got to get 3 referrals from other appraisers. So you got to pay for those. That's how it works.
You may have one right here.
Yeah.
Where are you going to find the other two?
Yeah.
So that was kind of a 2-part question, because the first piece of that is the value in the difference. The second is the condition of the property. There are a lot of folks that still believe that by selecting an FHA offer over a conventional offer, they're going to have to make certain repairs on an FHA that wouldn't otherwise need to be made on a conventional. And you're the appraiser, you're the pro. I mean, what is the take on that? I mean, I know there's some differences.
Yeah, that could be accurate. And, we kind of started off that to really set the standard that both agencies require that any safety, potential soundness, or structural integrity issues that the appraiser observes, remember, it's non-technical. Being in this room, if I see a stain in the ceiling, I need to call that out for an inspection on both conventional and FHA. FHA expects the utilities to be on and working, the electrical and the plumbing to be functional.
There's no stain, y'all. Hold on.
Is it snowing in here?
I know. I was looking.
There is one in the other office.
I
by the
saw
way.
that.
I saw it. I called it out. Yeah. So, yeah, you guys got an inspection next week. Yeah. Well, we'll just send it to your landlord. Right. But anyway, now that you got me off track here.
Sorry.
Are we supposed to have cigars and stuff like Joe Rogan in here right now?
Yeah. Joe Rogan inspired, baby.
The high balls coming in.
Yeah.
Wait, we get a plug in for like AG1 now? Is that the big sponsor of Mark's?
If only. Gosh. If only. But yeah, no, I mean, back to those conditions. Sorry.
Yeah.
Got you off track.
So the material difference between FHA and conventional is simply this. Hey, you look at your exterior finish. If that is defective, no matter how old that house is, it's got to be repaired. Let's take that same scenario to conventional. It becomes appraisers of judgment, meaning that if I go out to that property and I judge that it's cosmetic by observing it, which, hey, the appraiser is going to write what they feel. The underwriter can override what the appraiser is saying on that conventional file, but it's not an automatic repair as it is on FHA. So that's an example. Another example is there's a definition of appliances in the actual HUD handbook, okay? Utilities, plumbing, all have to be working on. The appraiser needs to test an ample amount of fixtures, electrical outlets, turn on appliances. They require all that. They require an observation of the attic and crawl space. But keep in mind, non-technical.
Right.
So in conventional, you don't have those extra layers. So there's technically no requirement for appliances in conventional.
Gotcha. Okay.
But there's a fine line there. If I go to a house and the water heater's stripped out, everything's stripped out, and it looks to be a challenge, well, I'm observing, well, something's gone on here that's a little outside of the ordinary. I need to call this out just to make sure that the systems are functioning. Conventional would expect that.
And that would go to the, I guess, standard of what all appraisers or appraisals, whether it be FHA, conventional, VA, have to abide by, which is they need to be safe and sound for the actual person buying that home, correct?
Correct. Both agencies require livability.
Right.
So there are some agents that don't have the experience, I think, come to you guys and bring you this house that has items that are affecting those and think you can just go conventional, right?
Yeah.
You can, but you're going to have to repair a lot of that, right? Before the loan closes.
I think another big piece that realtors are afraid of, the BINSR might be easier to negotiate on a conventional loan than an FHA.
Yeah, I can see that. You want to explain that a little bit more?
Well, I'm not a real estate agent, but I've sold some properties before, and I know a lot of real estate agents, and they feel a lot of the negotiation around price or closing costs when you get a BINSR, the real estate agents will ask the lender, are they required to be fixed?
Right.
Yes or no. And sometimes they're a yes, sometimes they're a no. And on a conventional loan, especially when the market was going up, you would see things like as is, no repairs are going to be made. And people would list houses. And now people are observing and they're like, I see people out there saying, well, today rates are higher. You can buy a house because of this. Before you're overpaying, you didn't get any repairs. Now we can get people to do all the repairs and some little extra stuff that might be cosmetic. And so the BINSR negotiation is a big part of that real estate transaction during changing markets.
So that leads me to two things. The first one is comparing, let's say, paint chips on the exterior of a property on an FHA versus a conventional. I would imagine that the paint chips would get picked up by an FHA appraiser.
I think you guys call that peeling paint.
Yeah, right? Versus a conventional would let that go. And then my second question to that is, just because a listing says as is, accepting conventional or cash, doesn't mean that the lender is going to finance based on those terms.
Correct. Especially when you're ordering for an agency appraisal that expects that collateral to be in a certain condition.
Very good.
Yep.
Can you, I guess, elaborate on that, what you mean?
Well, let's use your peeling paint as an example. There's a proper abatement level that HUD requires.
Okay.
So especially if that home's built 78 or prior, there's an expectation that needs to happen by an expert. So if I go out to that older property and the exterior surface is defective beyond cosmetic, which no matter what would be called out, there's an expectation that a technical expert is going to remedy that.
Yeah.
For repair, removing the actual potential lead-based paint, whatever the case may be. On the conventional side, again, it's going to go back to the appraiser's judgment, but I would tell you in that case, with the way I just laid out, likely would even potentially be called out on conventional because it goes beyond cosmetic.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes great sense.
And the underwriter's got also a layer there that they need to review what the appraiser wrote. And if they feel that, hey, maybe the appraiser should have called it out and they didn't, they can call it out as well.
Gotcha.
So it's not just the appraiser's world.
Yeah.
There's an extra layer there by your guys' team.
Makes sense to me. So, I mean, at this point, we've already talked about what it takes to become an appraiser. We've talked about a little bit of the differences between conventional FHA, the process in which it goes through. Now I'd like to kind of talk about comparables, how you make your assessment, layman's terms for the newer agents out there, maybe even consumers that are listening to this that have had a appraisal done, private or by the way of sale of a home.
Right.
And what actually took place. Because I will be honest, there are plenty of realtors out there that don't ask for a copy of the appraisal, don't explain the copy of the appraisal to their borrower, and frankly, have never even looked at one to be able to explain it. And we witnessed that today, but it was a great thing because we were able to educate them and get the light bulb going like, oh, wow, maybe I should look at an appraisal and know what the hell I'm doing,
100%. Well, I think the first thing you always want to think about selecting comps is remove the improvements from your mind for just a moment.
Okay.
Scrape the house. Think about what you're standing on.
Okay.
We often forget about that, especially in the residential space. And you want to focus on highest and best use and focus on that legal side first. What does that zoning allow from that property? So that's the first process that we're going to go through is looking at that dirt, what can happen there. And then you take the improvements. And as we talked about with the class today, go back to your last transaction. What were the top selling points of that? And we call those elements. So things that affect value, we call them elements. So in the residential space, in the sales comparison and selecting comps, you're generally going to focus on the top 3 to 5 or 6 elements of comparison.
Okay.
Using that highest and best use as your foundation. That's going to help you get into bracketing the best comps and pooling the best comps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in pulling those comps, there's a lot of, how do I put it? Opinion.
Yeah. 100%.
In regards to this. And opinion is a lot of times, whether it goes the right way or wrong way for the buyer or seller, is viewed as a negative thing or a positive thing when it should be viewed as more of an educated thing, because it's not Chad, the sales leader's opinion. It's Robert, the seasoned professional appraiser's opinion. And
Correct.
that opinion is based on a lot of facts.
Should be based on sport, not personal.
I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
It should be based on history and what's relevant into market today. And there's credible techniques to all of that. Now, does that create judgment? It'd be no different. You guys are both seasoned agents and you come interview me to sell my house. You're going to give me different opinions if I don't give you a target price. And that's natural. I mean, single family is emotional.
Yeah.
We generally don't break out our calculators and say, hey, I'm going to buy this price because of my ROI on this house. It's like, hey, I want to be in that school district. I'm willing to pay. I want that corner lot. I want that house with the pool. And those create variances in the market, which an appraiser is going to give you a supported opinion, and there's a variance with that opinion.
No, that makes good sense. It really does. So now that we know how you guys come up with your values, you take in comps, you're using adjustments and things of that nature. Can you explain a little bit further on how adjustments are made? Because I know that it is a topic that realtors, lenders, we throw out. Yeah, they made adjustments to it. But realistically, if you don't understand how that works and how the adjustments are made, you're just saying it because you know that's what's happening versus being able to answer a question if it's given back to you.
Right.
You know?
That's a big conversation. Like, and I'll try to make this simple so your podcast people don't fall asleep. I mean, we need to have like Hulk Hogan on here.
Well,
or something
I mean,
to talk
at
to
the
this.
end of the day, everybody and their mother has wanted to speak to an appraiser. That's just the one thing that it's like, well, how do we talk to the appraiser? Well, you can't do that. I mean, we've got you right here, brother.
Love it. So what I'm going to go over will spiral down as a reverse umbrella. Okay. These are the foundations of applying adjustments. And every market across the country can be different. And the first thing is what I think we all need to do better at valuing as practitioners, whether we're an agent or appraiser, or even a curious investor, is know your market.
Okay.
You could be in a neighborhood and that market may have 4 to 5 submarkets within it. And one of those markets may be going up in value. One could be flat. One could be down. That's the situation we're in a lot of areas of the country. It's very fickle right now. It's something we haven't seen.
Right.
The adjustment process, first step is we're always going to do paired data analysis.
Okay.
And look at something very simple. And it's never the simple, but I'm going to give you some simple, and it spirals down. You know, I want to value a pool. I'm going to take properties that are market similar to each other, that are not perfect, but they're similar. Some have a pool, some don't. We can see a natural push on what a pool is doing to value in that marketplace of that property.
Sure.
And so price point has a factor on that. The demand, you know, are we in Chicago where only 1 out of 100 houses have a pool? May have no value, may not get great paired data, right? May have limited value, right? But you go into Arizona where some markets, every other house has a pool, or 1 out of 15, there's going to be great data to value that pool.
Gotcha.
So the second piece, I think this is personal. So just take off the rest of it, me just being personal here. The best appraisers truly understand replacement cost. And also the best appraisers have gone through selling homes, whether as an active investor or been involved in that process to really understand the emotional side of people buying in their habits. And when you sell and you have cost involved in something, you really truly understand cost, because everything we sell is depreciated cost, right?
Right.
It either sells at full replacement cost or it sells below that. And there is layers of depreciation there, all forms extracted out of the market.
Right.
So depreciated cost is a great way to help assist appraisers with analyzing adjustments. Other pieces would be doing an income analysis, which doesn't work really well in single family unless the market has got a ton of rental activity and buyers are truly making decisions around that piece. Other steps would be doing sensitivity and bracketing. So bracketing, we talked a lot about that today and how important that is.
Mm-hmm.
We want to use comps that bracket those key elements of our comp selection. If not every element that the subject property has, but those key elements are crucial because those control and gives us outputs of how those adjustments might fall.
Right.
And that's why adjustments are never perfect in appraisals. We expect this world where every appraiser is always making $100 per square foot GLA adjustment. Well, that would be like saying that every buyer is going to always offer the same amount for the same property, right?
Right.
It doesn't have to work that way.
I've heard realtors say, isn't a pool this much, that much? Like there's a menu, like a drop down menu, like pool, third bath.
That was actually one of the biggest things that I took away from that, being a seller investor both sides is, and we'll use the example of the pool. You could spend $100,000 to put a pool, and then the concept is I'm only going to get half the value out of that. But in what you were saying is you may get half the value or a third of the value on paper there, but your entire square footage is also heavily weighted on that concept of what others in the market are doing. If they have a pool, they don't have a pool. Well, that's adding to your square footage as a whole versus the next home that does not have a pool. Am I on the right track there?
I'm trying to understand
your square footage value.
Your average
overall
price per square foot. Well,
correct.
If the pool is desirable, it's going to help increase marketability, right? No matter what, which could be a bonus because you could outsell the competition.
Right. And that's kind of my example is on paper, they may see, well, my pool, I spent $100,000, but he's only giving me 30. Well, at the same time, look up at the top on your square footage, you would have probably only gotten $5 less on your overall square footage, but because you have it and others in the market do as well, you're right in line with them.
Right. Well, and to help with that, price point's a big part. And is giving an example, I've appraised in markets and seen appraisals in markets where full cost of $100,000 pool is expected in the market because every house has one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's generally in your higher priced properties in the southwestern climates that pools are very common.
Right.
And then if you put that $100,000 pool in a more predominant sales price in a market, it may be an over improvement. It may help out marketability, but just like you said, the value of that pool may suffer because only 1 out of 20 homes would have a pool, where you go into, I don't want to say luxury market, but a higher price market where there's more money available, and every other house or almost every house has 100,000. It's almost expected in marketability. So
that could affect time on the market for the property.
Yeah, because you got to think it's more than just replacing it, right? It's time to have the backyard dug up for 6 months.
9 months.
Yeah.
That's very true. That's why I always say, if you want a pool, buy a house with a pool. Just from experience.
Great point. Great point.
It's true. Okay, so we've talked about the concept of how appraisals are come up with, how we use comps, the difference between FHA conventional. I want to get into how technology is going to play a big role in what we do moving forward, both from a lending and an appraiser aspect. And in the end, pretty much ask, do you think that this tech will replace appraisers, similar to the way that Zillow believes they can replace realtors, whatever.
That's funny. Somebody emailed me yesterday, is Zillow or House Canary more accurate? And look, I can't speak for any of those companies, but I said, well, so House Canary, if you don't know, it is more of a, they have more data scientists and they're all about values in like really AVM modeling, and they produce quality reports. Okay. And when I say quality, they look great. So it doesn't mean I'm backing up their values, but is Zillow a marketing platform or are they a value platform?
They're a lead generation company.
Okay. So that's what I kind of try to explain in my own inferior wording, if you will.
Absolutely.
That's two different animals there. House Canary is about the value, and they've probably got stronger data scientists putting out their value. So I think that the key thing we're related to with values and looking at technology is this. Number one, I want to give you a quick story. So I got involved in a project that I was asked to look at some valuation on, and I met an architect at the property. And I already knew about digital technology coming in appraisal. I've been around it with the company I work for. But long story short, this really raised my confidence level about where it's going. So this architect, this guy that does drawings, okay, like when I say does drawings, like high-level drawings for properties, that's going to create multiple layers of plans for you to get city approval.
Gotcha.
he says, hey, I'm going to come out and do a 3D scan of the property. And I just stopped, okay, because I work for a company that class has unbelievable digital technology related to doing a 3D digital twin of a property, okay? And I'm thinking, I got to hear more about this. Mm-hmm. So this gentleman, his company they've got about 5 of these. They're $150,000 a piece. And you can look them up, and I'm not an expert, so if anybody listening here, but it's called Faro. And this technology, they come out and do a 3D scan of the property, and I'm using their words, and if you go on Faro's website, it clearly talks about 3D scan. It does a full thermal image, measures everything about the property so they can produce accurate CAD plans where they're doing not only a floor plan, your electrical, your HVAC, your plumbing. It all goes to all of those contractors laid out so that it can go to the city. And I mean, it's unbelievable what the technology does. So how can we not employ some of that technology into the valuation space to improve accuracy?
Right.
We are, okay? But that raised my confidence level to know we need to go that route because everything we do is about some type of digital capture now, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Everything we do. We talked about it a little bit in class. We don't think about it. We go in the grocery store. We walk in the airport and you got the little Amazon kiosk.
Yep.
You just walk through and they're scanning our whole body. We might die a little younger now, but in all seriousness, let's talk about it from a national level. Mm-hmm. So you've got the White House pushing out PAVE. So property appraisal and valuation equity. At my company class, we want to focus on eradicating any kind of bias inside it. We actually have an executive that's an appraiser. She's phenomenal. She works on that every day. Our 3D digital twin technology we call Property Fingerprint Report. We do digital property collection with that, and our goal is to help limit any bias. Now, I will personally tell you, and this is me taking away off my class hat for a moment being Robert, I don't think there's a lot of bias-related discrimination, although there's cases of it, and I think it's something we need to be trained on with fair housing. We need a continuous training, but there's a lot of unintentional bias.
Right.
Remember going back to who you were trained by?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's appraisers still using county floor plans when they know they shouldn't be because they were trained that way, as an example. Am I just being fixated on one comparable cell that controls my value? But the digital side of technology is here to help with accuracy. And it's unbelievable. From getting floor plans to digital imagery capture to doing 3D tours and giving that data to the appraiser so they can do what they do best, which is analyze data, I think is a game changer for the industry.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about it.
Same here. I think it'll reshape the industry into a more streamlined, more efficient way of going about things. And a lot of folks are fearful. They're scared about technology taking over. And for me, I'm an advocate for it because instead of replacing, I use it to leverage and supplement in ways that should be supplemented. If you guys are starting to employ that type of concept, Mike, hats off to you because that's going to make your job not necessarily easier, but more efficient.
Yeah.
In regards to your time, how long it takes you to do that, how the property is evaluated. I mean, numerous different things. It's not just throwing a dart on a map and going, okay, that's the value. I mean, there's so much that goes into it. Like you said, you guys analyze data. It's not just taking pictures and measuring floor plans.
So if you look at the measuring floor plans, tech tools, problems people have had that are listening out there on appraisal, like, yep, that's happened to me. Measuring the house, it's who you were trained by. What's their technique? And I know this because I've seen it and lived the world, and I'm trying to solve a solution. Mm-hmm. Where did they get their drawing from? County records? How often, Robert, do problems come up from a lender, maybe a realtor, when they list the house? You might have realtor 1 versus realtor 2 comes in, and they're using a different square footage. Or someone says, what's the square footage of your home? The homeowner goes, I don't know.
Right. Or they go by what's in the county, and
or
the county has been wrong since day one.
The last appraiser did, and it was wrong.
Correct.
Do you see that ever? Do you think this new process is going to help ensure the consumer, again, you're buying that diamond ring, you're not letting the jeweler's appraiser, you might want to go somewhere else and find out the opinion. How do we know that, how do we know the measurements are right?
And that's the number one thing we're here for. As we talk about this, and I know you guys focus on this, we're here about making our economy stronger and really deriving a solid experience with the consumer. And that's who we really work for, even though if I'm an appraiser, I'm working for you, Mark, as a lender, right? But I think the technology is going to help with accuracy in all forms. It's modernizing not only how we're capturing data, but making that more consistent out there.
Sure.
I think just like you said, appraisers are fearful that it's going to take over, but it doesn't show that because you've got all the material players, Fannie, Appraisal Institute, Appraisal Foundation, all pushing to get new blood in the business, Freddie Mac, National Urban League, all these major players trying to get more people in. But I'll leave this with one simple quote. A higher up with Fannie, and when he talks, you listen. Appraiser, and he's one of the players around valuation modernization, and he said, "Hey, we can send somebody to the moon with precise measurements, but yet we can't consistently measure a single family property. What's our challenge? The technology is here for us to employ as an industry, not only to measure a house correctly, but consistently capture data about that house." And also all the AI and functionality allow us to review digital imagery at a higher level.
Right.
And I'm not the greatest expert at it. Okay. I'm learning every day from the company I work at, from other players. It's going to continue to evolve. And you either got to accept it and embrace it and learn.
Sure.
And make your own great decisions. Like we told the agents today, you're going to see some negative stuff out there on it. And there's some things to work through. Yeah. We're sending new people in homes and there's some things to talk about there, but I think there's good processes in place to really protect the consumer.
Absolutely. Well, I've got 3 more things to talk about and then we can free for all. The first one was something that you reminded me of that I forgot to ask in the beginning that is important to too many out there selling their home or agents that are representing sellers, which is a homeowner adding square footage to their home. How can they ensure that that's actually being utilized in the value of their home?
Great question. And we honestly didn't get to talk a lot about that today from a timing standpoint. So here's the first thing. As you read guidelines, this is the question we asked in class. Do you believe that permits are required for any added-on livable space for the loan to happen? And what you'll usually see, Mark, is half the room will say yes and half the room will just be silent.
Right.
And which is good. If you don't know the answer, right, just don't say anything. That's what we all should learn. Do we employ that? Probably not. So none of the agencies require permits, but there's always that capitalized but at the end.
Sure.
So
city, county.
Yeah, no. So FHA, conventional, VA, USDA, none of them require permits to be obtained for any conversion space, like a garage being converted or a patio being converted to livable space. There's a but there. Okay. And to me, FHA has really done a great job for all of us to follow something that is relevant. And 2, Fannie is the only agency, even though most are adopting, that we measure to ANSI standards, which is American National Standards Institute. They had a new version come out last year, or actually 2021. And we have to follow that when measuring single family property for Fannie files and Freddie at the end of the year. But long story short, what an appraiser's role in that space is, even if it's a converted space, their job is to analyze how the market's going to respond to that. Mm-hmm. If there's any adverse marketability, they have to address it in the appraisal report. But if it meets market expectations to be reported as gross living area, and if it's Fannie, it meets ANSI standards, the appraiser can include that on without permits to be gross living area.
And can you give an example of that? I mean, just layman, I mean, those are some big words and we understand it here, but from a consumer's aspect, let's say a seller's listening to this, they're watching this and they're going, what the hell did he just say?
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. That's
and don't be. That's good stuff.
It's all good. So I'll give you, you're both agents and you're representing me to buy a home. And I would say Mark's probably the better agent. Okay. So Mark's the better agent.
$1 million listing.
So we're going out to a property and you're going to show me property A. Okay. We're in a market. It's 1,500 square feet. We walk through the house and there's an added space in the back in that 1,500 envelope. Okay. That the listing agents listed at. Mm-hmm. So you walk through, hey, Robert, here, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. We step into that addition and the quality seems to be separated from the main house.
Right.
There seems to be some differences, whether it be utility, finishes. We know it's an add-on. Is it livable? Yeah. And maybe the heating and cooling feels like it's working there. Mm-hmm. Now, we go to house B, same market, same neighborhood, same market of the property, 1,500 square feet, but it's originally built to 1,500 square feet, and we don't see any flaws.
Gotcha.
If the market shows house A would be inferior than house B, likely the appraiser is going to treat that add-on differently in the appraisal, meaning that it still has value. Most likely it's contributing value, but it may not be at the same per square foot level as the main house.
That was pretty.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Very well put. So every episode, I like a little bit of controversy, if you want to call it that. And you have prompted something in regards to discrimination. You can answer, you don't have to. But I like keeping it real on this show. About maybe 6 months back, I had a podcast episode about disparities in the actual appraisal side of things when folks are selling their home. And me being biracial, multiracial, shit, I don't even know what I am these days. I don't really buy into that logic. Why? Because I've sold many homes and sold them all over San Antonio, flip properties, primary residence, etc. And every appraisal was based on just like what we've talked about today, data, comps, time that home took to sell, all the different things that we've discussed today. But there was a report that came out that there were discrimination in values in certain communities. I'm sure you read that article or something like that.
I think there's multiple out there, right?
Right.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel as an appraiser that knows he's doing his job properly, but yet is being deemed as something as, I guess, lumped in with the whole?
Yeah. Well, appraisers are always held to a higher level. And we've got to embrace what the media is saying and learn and take more classes and be educated in the process and apply better processes and be solid thinkers. And that's the best way I can do it. I mean, look, anybody that's gone through anything, I think every professional outlet's got people in it that are just bad. Right. There's always a percentage, right? I don't know what that percentage is. I don't study it. I'd like to think myself, company I work for, our goal is to promote valuation equity, period. Right. And I think the most common thing that you see in any kind of industry, most likely, because most people are good people, and I like to think that way.
Same.
Is unintentional bias. And we don't even recognize it, right? It isn't necessarily skin color, right? It's I'm targeting and fixating because I personally believe, like, well, how is that house worth $300,000? I've never seen a house sell over $250,000. And that could be a person that's unintentionally being biased. And I think that that's where maybe the industry has some issues. These technologies, better processes, the digital review thing we talked a lot with, like collateral underwriter, is going to help bring this up. And plus, appraiser needs to advance their education.
That's kind of where I was going to go with that is both from the appraiser standpoint, but more so from the listing agent, from the home seller's standpoint, is education. You only know what you know, and it's easy to throw this statement out there. It's hard to do the research to validate if it's true or not.
100%.
So, yeah.
Do you guys see it on the lending side? I mean, are you seeing that?
I don't see that ever. I mean, if there is a shortage, and I've heard the whole, we took our pictures down because we didn't want them to think that it's like, wow. I mean, you really think that has any kind of bearing? And if it did, do you not think that one appraiser is going to be, focused on? I mean, it's pretty obvious if that was the case. There's so many checks and balances.
There's been some weird cases where someone, their appraisal's low, and it was a minority couple. Their appraisal came in low. They wanted to do cash out refinance. I think it was this last year during COVID out in California. So then they hired another appraiser, and they had their white friend meet them there at the house, put in different photos, and the value came in above where it was at. You know, hey, we can get a man.
Rotten apple.
Hey, we can get a man to the moon, but we can't. You send 10 appraisers out to a house. There's all going to have some bias of some kind, some skill set, some training. They use a different technique. They're going to be a little bit different.
And I think you can simplify that based on, let's say, a property flipper. They're flipping a property. They're making over 100% of the profit from what they purchased it for. We as lenders require a second appraisal to be done.
Where do you do that?
Huh?
What is that? That sounds San Antonio. Is that how it works here?
Not anymore. Okay. They're gone.
Is it Bexar County or Bear?
Bear.
Oh,
Bear.
Yeah.
But the concept is we want to make sure that it wasn't just a fluke. We want to make sure that that appraiser is in line with the next appraiser that comes to do the second appraisal.
Right.
And every time they're going to be different, but they should be within a range, in my opinion.
Yeah, the variance, I mean, look, there's different markets out there that are going to create different variances. I know of a deal yesterday, and this might get you guys spinning a little bit. I know of a deal in, I'll say the state, Utah, I'll leave it at that. Utah, where the first appraisal came in at $1.1 million. Okay, let me just give you the sales price, which appraisers getting a copy of the contract and analyzing that contract is $2.4 million. Okay. First appraisal, I'm not making this up, came in at $1.1 million. This is a true, very recent story. It happened in the last day. Second appraisal comes in at sales price. That should not happen.
Right.
That's an unbelievable variance. There is some challenges there. That could be a competency issue. There are multiple things that concern me about that.
Yeah.
Could you have a variance? Let's just use a 2.4 million price point where there's one at 2.2, one at 2.6, or, absolutely.
Right.
Sure. I mean, 5% is a big number.
Yeah.
It is. And in single family, we forget it's emotional.
Right.
It really is.
And then it goes to the question of which side of the competency is it on? Is it the one that went high or is it the one that went low?
Yeah, and you hope, look, I feel bad for anybody that's been discriminated against and people that have to take their
that
photos.
had to be a big range of emotion with the buyer and seller.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, well, think about it. Let's say that happened to you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, you could lose a relationship over that, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, and it's not your control.
Totally.
And
Unless we can justify it based on the comps and the challenges that are in place to be able to do so.
I'll say that's a wacko deal, right?
Yeah.
But how many times, Mark, have you heard real estate agents, they talk to you like the appraisers are part of they work for, I think.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, I wanted to mention this during the presentation earlier today, which was realtors are in the habit of saying, "Your appraiser." Yes, they work for us, but this is a disinterested third party, technically, that we're collecting the money. We are
they were hired
they
by
were
us.
hired, correct. And the appraisal itself, and this is something maybe we didn't talk about, but as a lender, we don't pick and choose. We can pick our property, you can pick your realtor, all that jazz, but you don't get to pick your appraiser. It goes into a pool of appraisers, and then it's pretty much a bidding system from that point. In regards to turn time, dollars, amounts, things of that nature. But yeah, that would probably cause some issues, to say the least.
Yeah.
So this has been a great episode, and I want to add one more discussion for us all three that we can all kind of shed some insight to, which is what the hell's going on with the market, guys? Let's talk about some trends. What are you seeing? I mean, Robert, you get to see this stuff from a national aspect. Chad, you're over in Arizona. I'm here in Texas. Everybody seems to be coming to Arizona and Texas and Florida. I wouldn't ask the same thing from somebody in California or Idaho or something like that. But what are you seeing in regards to, I guess the biggest question that everybody asks is, when is the crash coming?
You guys don't know that? You didn't get the memo?
I didn't get it. I'm in Texas, baby.
okay.
We don't go backwards.
Drink a few more of those Celsius.
Yeah, you'll figure it out.
You'll feel it.
Yeah. That's the next podcast, Mark. We'll talk about that next. We'll say that. Who wants to lead?
Well, you see a lot of housing data out there. You hear there's a soft landing. Our CFO just went through just to talk about all the data, and it's really hard. I mean, inflation is real. People that don't think there's inflation. We were on the plane yesterday, and Robert made a comment to somebody about, "Hey, can we get a T-bone steak?" And the flight attendant, she goes, "I can't even afford to buy them anymore at the grocery store. They're so expensive."
Yeah.
And when you start hearing those real world things, and the housing inventory, I have 2 children, 22, 24, looking to buy the house. When is someone going to start building their real estate portfolio? And I know you see all these podcasters and the grammars out there saying, buy it, a fourplex, do all this stuff. It's still, I mean, let's be real. It takes money.
Correct.
And
it's not for the novice either. I mean, you've got to have a mentor.
There's some areas of the country where it works. There's other areas where it doesn't. But the big concern is, and when I hear people say that, hey, interest rates were 18% when I bought my first house, I'm like, yeah, it was $50,000 too.
Yeah.
And there's all these little different things, but a shortage of housing, affordable housing, is a big challenge. there's got to be more homes being built.
Right.
Rates, they say they're going for a soft landing. I personally think rates will not start to go down until after the election.
Yeah.
That's just in my opinion, just based upon what's historically happened.
Right.
And I don't think rates will probably ever go below 5.5% on a 30-year fix.
I have to agree on that accord. I mean, we had a healthy market when they were around that rate. It's just the concept that you're talking about is affordable housing. Even if rates are 5.5, if we don't have properties that are within range of that payment for that new to the world buyer, it's only going to continue to raise values even higher and higher and higher, especially with the shortages.
And I see, people are going to start, maybe moving away from the big cities, moving a little bit further out, and where you can get more housing for your buck. The affordable housing that you see in some locations, or maybe it pops up on the news of tiny housing, weird housing that's in a shipping container. Yeah. I don't care. I just couldn't move my starter home in a shipping container,
right?
Or some weird skinny looking house.
I mean, it's just
I grew up in the Midwest. So.
It's the HGTV fad of the week. That
I mean, I'm talking real affordable housing stuff where people can live, work, have a job, be part of a community.
The single family residential home that is anywhere from 200 to even 150 to 200, 250.
Yeah,
we don't see that.
There's spots in the country they're going to have to get discovered, be desirable, and people end up going there. No different during COVID. Places shot up in value.
Yeah,
because people left other places that weren't as desirable or too expensive.
You can always move. You can always move to Oklahoma.
Yeah. Well, and look, that's a great point. I think that one of the things I personally like to study is where are people moving.
Yeah.
So you take the Southwest and the Southeast, and that's where your top job earners are moving. So that's why we're still holding ground. So when you look at this from a national level, it's very fickle, and it's very fickle even local. So talking to agents and anybody that's listening to your call, your podcast, I always say focus on the market of the property that you're dealing with.
Sure.
If you're an agent that's got 5 listings, there could be differences with all those markets. But when you look at the Southwest and the Southeast, we're very strong because of the people that are entering. The population changes. And that's allowing us to thrive through this way, where some other areas of the country where everybody's departing and those job earners are moving,
right?
They're going to struggle. And you're going to see more concessions. You're going to see longer days on market, potentially more price reductions.
Right.
So I think wherever you are, you've got to pay attention to what's going on from the overall economics of where you're at.
Yeah.
It's really important because our supply and demand is out of whack. We've never seen this where we have low supply. Generally, that's a strong signal the values are just going to keep shooting up. And that is happening in some areas. Values are still going up, but values could be flat with low supply, and potentially some values could be softening with low supply because the ones that are selling aren't moving fast enough.
Right. And those that do need to sell.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, no, that's some good stuff. And man, I've got nothing else to add to this. Chad, you got any questions for our man here?
Hey, you know what? I sit and listen
Anything
to
to add, by all means.
I listen to Robert talk. We've talked about, hundreds of appraisals, over the years. In my role of what I do is, I usually get when there's a problem. I don't get a lot of people bringing me the successes of, hey, this appraisal came in at value. It's so awesome. Want to look at it. It's really the, listen with patience. I've learned to just observe, listen with patience, let people explain themselves. And a really good question is always to, ask the real estate agent, how did you come up with that value or listing price? What do you have to support that value? And a lot of times when things were lower or you're having a problem, the real estate agent was, well, the last one sold for 500, so I just listed this one for 525. And that happens out there.
Oh, it does. It absolutely does.
And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, because if you listen to Robert, it could be the supply versus the demand. I just know your facts. Make sure you have an appraiser that you can trust. And at the end of the day, I look at it as the lender. That's not my job. My job is to ensure that the company that we hire does a really good job communicating with the borrower that hired us.
Yeah.
And we have, an open responsibility to communicate to the borrower so they understand directly from the appraiser.
Absolutely. It's like a stay in your lane,
my big role is I want to make sure that I'm that highway to make sure there's, really smooth communication.
But you raised a great point in the concept of, I listed it at 520 because the last one sold at 500. But then you also, with so much data being readily available for consumers, that seller sees that too.
Yeah.
And they're demanding that 520 to be sold at that.
They get fixated on that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I guess my message to the realtors out there that are dealing with sellers predominantly is educate yourself, know your facts, and be able to explain, articulate, and almost dissect how you back into an appraisal, why you're listing it for X price, and then believe in yourself to know that you can stand behind what it is that you're providing to them in way of their value and why you're going to list that property.
Yeah, and I'll give Robert one more plug is, as a real estate agent, you go out and that customers talk to a few different, real estate agents, and they tell the real estate agent, I'm going to list it for whoever's going to lift it for $550. And there's a lot of agents that are like, man, there's no way this is selling for $550. Well, I'll just do it and I'll have this price dropping strategy. I'm just going to get the listing. That happens, and I get it. But there are things that you can do where you can get what's called a listing appraisal, where you can actually hire an independent appraiser up front if you want to be a listing agent or you want to go in on that listing appraisal. That's something that is available from appraisers and from Class Evaluation, Robert.
Yeah, I would promote that. I use that as a bridge conversation. So if I get inquired about doing that listing appraisal, I say, look, my number is my number. It's an opinion. It's supported opinion. But realize this is hopefully going to allow you to have a better conversation with your client, the seller. Don't go into this like holding this as a hard line. Use this as
I got
a
it.
conversation.
This is it. But it is. If you're going to go in on hey, here it is. Your house is going to sell for this. I can see the future. Like, I always look at that. How does a real estate agent tell someone in March, I'm going to list your house in July for $550 and it's going to close in September for $550 and that's what it's going to appraise for? Come on.
It's hard to tell.
Are they not that good, right?
Right.
It's part of this strange process that we have. But when you go up against a listing appointment, just like if you're a loan officer giving somebody a quote, if you just tell them something over the phone, they may not see it. There's tools where you can sit in front of them. You can screen share. Going in on a listing appointment, most agents already know the more prepared you are, you're going to increase the likelihood of that seller is going to choose you because you have all the data.
You're prepared.
You have data. You're prepared. You know how to really tell a story to get that value.
Yeah.
And people just want to find a trust validator
Right.
of someone that they can believe in.
Utilizing that as a tool. Why? Because most sellers just can't handle the truth.
Yeah. Hey, hey, the listing appraisal. If you've never ordered a listing appraisal, hey,
That's
call
right.
Class Evaluation.
So
Get a hold
Robert,
of
thank you for standing on that wall.
Love it.
Well, guys, this has been a great episode with plenty of information that is not just opinionated. There was a lot of fact here. There was a lot of perspective that was gained. And hopefully there's plenty that you guys can actually take out there, put in your tool belt and utilize it the next time you have any of these situations occur, especially if it's a scenario to which there is a definitive answer, but you continue to do the same thing. Because if you always do what you always done, you're always going to get what you always got. So that being said, not bad, right?
I got it.
So,
you did really good. I was checking you there. And Chad used to be a teacher, so I was really waiting for his eyeballs to see if that really checked out.
Did you find the comma in that?
I got it.
But guys, is there anything else that you want to add before we conclude this?
No, I'm good. It's a lot of fun.
Hey, Mark and Chad both appreciate all that Mann does for us, a class, and great class today. I hope it creates a lot of value, and let's brainstorm to do some more for the good out there for realtors and consumers.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us out, Mark.
Thank you both for joining the show today. I hope you both have safe flights back. Both going back to Arizona?
I'm going to Arizona, then to Montana.
Yeah. Okay. Good deal. So
I'm not going to Montana, much as I would like to.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining. All you guys out there, make sure to like, subscribe, share this with a friend, because you never know who's going to need some of this information. But until then, we'll catch you on the next one.